Hey guys, welcome back to Total Tactics FPL. It's Fran here, and I'm looking at my Gameweek 24 team selection. What I'm showing now is my unedited Gameweek 23 team, and as you can see, it clearly contains players that I might not want to play as a starter this week. My bench is actually in the order of what I would like it to be for the specific week in terms of Rafinha, King, and Cody. But Madison and Dennis are two players that I'd actually like to think about maybe moving away uh, in the specific game week. As you can see with Madison's fixtures in the near future, they aren't particularly good. The reschedulements that we actually thought would happen have not really happened, and therefore it's a good opportunity to actually move away from Madison into someone like a KDB or a Bruno. I'm more minded towards going for Bruno this week just because he presents a captaincy opportunity at 25 that I think is essential. I think having one of Ronaldo or Fernandez in that week is going to be almost necessary to kind of stay up with the rest of the pack next week. Not only that, but I think Dennis is an interesting kind of swap because by bringing in someone like an Edouard this week, I have an opportunity to have a very kind of forward diverse team by 26 when we have the double game weeks of Watford. And that is going to be a key consideration as well. Perhaps holding on to Dennis and King an additional week might be nice because I would have a little bit of an eye test of what this Watford manager plans to do with Dennis when he returns to the team. And not only Dennis, but also Ismaila Sarr, who actually has been playing for Senegal, who eventually actually did win AFCON. So that's going to be another big consideration there. I'm actually still tempted to maybe do an aggressive play and actually move Dennis out of the team, expecting that Watford will play a much more defensive structure, a 4-4-2 kind of flat structure where maybe Dennis is going to be a left mid. And in that kind of shape, I imagine that he will have less attacking contributions, and that would be a good time to move on to someone like an Edouard, who has been almost a talisman for Crystal Palace alongside someone like Gallagher this season. So that is going to be one of my considerations. But going back to Madison, I think the clear consideration is to actually move him from Bruno. So that is going to be almost a locked-in transfer this week for me. Bruno, as I said, is potentially even a captaincy this week versus Burnley, even though we've seen that Burnley have gotten 2 clean sheets in a row. And if you're not considering Bruno for a captaincy option this week, I still think he can be quite explosive. If you watch the Middlesbrough match and the kind of shape and structure that United played, he was still quite a key figure there, making a lot of key passes, creating a lot of shots on target, alongside a miss which actually hit the post. But that's going to be Bruno for those next few weeks up until 28 when he has that game versus City. I think he's going to be a massive option. Even the single game week versus Leeds is a really great opportunity to own Bruno because we know that game is always a very kind of high octane game for United and almost the best game of their season whenever they get to play versus Leeds. And I really think that that's going to be a great opportunity to own Bruno in 26 when there is a single game week. As far as captaincy options this week, I think it's actually between, as I said, Bruno, Jota, and Cancelo. But a lot of people should also be paying consideration into someone like a Jared Bowen this week. I wouldn't say Antonio is necessarily a good captaincy option. I think a lot of us who have captained Bowen over Antonio the last few weeks would kind of stay the course if you want to kind of look at that Watford game as a game to attack. The big consideration there is going to be what you think the impacts of the new manager will be, whether they'll actually continue to maybe have kind of good defensive results versus this West Ham team, or whether West Ham will kind of blow them away. I'm tempted to also keep Gray in this team selection as well, just because with the shift in manager and maybe DCL being dropped, I still think that Gray can have ample opportunities to actually contribute for this team. And it's also a kind of last step in the road for Sergio Reguilon in my team too. I think putting him in this game versus Southampton is interesting because he actually played the full 90 minutes in the FA Cup, and as a manager who was looking at Reguilon as someone who could be an option even in the double game week for 26 and also future double game weeks when Spurs actually have more games to be rescheduled. This kind of Southampton game is a good test to see whether I should keep Reguilon into my team or maybe even think about moving him away into someone like a Luka Dean in the future, or maybe even an Arsenal asset if I was really trying to target 26 with the best kind of defense that I have possible. Laporte is a very kind of happy fixture that I have in my team. He's definitely going to be starting most games. I learned my lesson, I think, the week that I actually brought Laporte in and actually benched him when he had an assist contribution versus Arsenal. So he's going to stay within the team. And in terms of the bench order, it's exactly how I said it would be. It would be Rafinha, Josh King, and then Connor Cody. For me, I think Arsenal haven't been the most creative and electric side, but this is quite I think, high ceiling game week, and I think Cody has a high floor, but not necessarily a high ceiling. And I think I would rather keep him on the bench for that exact reason. Rafinha is the kind of X factor, I think, off the bench, where if any of these players who are in my team don't play, such as a Reguilon as an option, then he would come off the bench and be quite a key contributor for me. So as discussed, the two transfers that I'll actually like to bring in this week for a -4 are going to be Bruno Fernandes and Edouard. Just on Edouard, I think it's a fantastic game once again versus Norwich. The last time he played, I think he had a penalty scored and then a few assists. The thing here is going to be Zaha coming back into the team, maybe taking away the penalties from Edouard, but he still will have plenty of chances, in my opinion, to actually score versus this Norwich team. I think Crystal Palace were much the better side the last time they played, and that should remain the case. With Edouard hopefully playing at least 70 to 80 minutes consistently for this team. If you look at Benteke's minutes, they've over the course of the season actually trimmed down a lot. He's either not played in the most recent games or only featured for 10 to 15 minutes. And Edouard has actually kind of finally, I would say, staked his place in the team. He also just scored versus Liverpool, so he's kind of on a hot streak himself and has already farmed this kind of Norwich team before. So the hope is that he repeats this sort of kind of talismanic performance. With Bruno Fernandes, I think he is going to be a little bit of an X factor this week, just because I think people will be looking to actually bring him instead in Game Week 25. I think he's actually a great captaincy option this week, even though he hasn't really been mentioned by a lot of people. Cancelo, Bowen, and Jota probably seem like the more likely options that people will head towards this week, and I completely understand why. Bowen has been electric for this kind of latter half of the season. Jota is going to be the talisman, but Salah and Mane kind of missing out of the game will, in my opinion, impact his ability to score. I know he's done incredibly well in their absences, even in, for example, the cup match versus Arsenal, where he's always scored versus that team, as an example. We did see, of course, that Leicester had managed a clean sheet versus Liverpool, but the impact of actually playing in Anfield and Liverpool also being a very good team at extracting revenge will be quite a key consideration, I think. But ultimately, I'll actually save that decision for the stream, so I hope you guys tune in later, and maybe we can actually make, once again, hopefully a good captaincy decision later on today. If I actually look at tinkering my team, so we're actually going to quickly move on to that. All right, so we're looking at the team selection screen now, and the transfers I'd like to make obviously are going to be Madison and Dennis, probably out for Edouard and Bruno. So bringing these two players in will be quite a big plus, but 4.8 in the bank means that I don't necessarily have enough to bring Salah in unless I move Jota out of my team. So the plan really for the next few weeks probably is to think about 25, where I can actually roll, in my opinion, especially after these two transfers. Bruno will be my captain next week, and if I roll on 25, then I will have two free transfers in the subsequent week, and then the plan probably will be to actually move away from Jota potentially. And if Reguilon is still, in a sense, depressing me as a player in my team, then I could move to Robertson, go into Salah, and then also go out of Antonio as well. So maybe someone like a kind of Armando Broja. And Broja is interesting for me because 26 onwards, you have a beautiful run of games for Broja, and hopefully he will be fit for that run. I think his only issue so far this season has just been injury. But the 0.9 in the bank can also be something that I can address to maybe fix or correct some other players. And I can even maybe go out of Cody instead if I want to really keep Reguilon for the double game week too. So that's going to be an option. Gray is another consideration too. He could potentially be an Arsenal player if I decide to, let's say, maybe relax on the kind of massive Liverpool switch up and maybe just address another kind of double game week team or specific player. But this is roughly the team I would like to kind of rock with in 26, maybe with a consideration of a Salah triple captaincy or at least a bench boost potentially, because a lot of these players have very, very good single game weeks or double game weeks, and it's a great time to actually use the chip. So maybe even Cody can stay in the team. We can keep Reguilon and then just bring in Robertson at that point in time. Hopefully with enough cash in the bank to actually do that. And Sanchez and De Gea, they both have games on 26. So that's still a positive there. And that's probably going to be my play. We'll see what happens there. I think triple captain Salah is probably the go-to plan for most default managers, but I do see it as an opportunity to go for a bench boost, just because my team is somewhat more accommodating for that at this point in time. I also think that I can go away without free hitting in 27. because for a lot of managers who are targeting Arsenal, for example, and Liverpool, they probably have a amalgamation of Arsenal and Liverpool players of around 4 to 5, and that does take away from their kind of strength in 27. So 27 is going to be another key week too to think about, making sure that maybe if I go without the Arsenal players in the double game week 26, then I can kind of have a strong team that is capable of addressing 27. There could also be a gamble where maybe I go for someone like a Martinelli who's at the similar price of Gray. That's another option too. But nothing's really set in stone for now. I think the rough plan is to think about how to triple up on Liverpool for most managers, and also to think about what kind of single game weeks they'd like to focus, and also who actually has a good run of games post 27. So as I was kind of mentioning, we are going to be heading into a period where players like a Mount can be a fantastic swap from Bruno post 27. So if you can see here, Bruno's games kind of dry up at 27. You have immediately a bad game versus Man City, which is a great time, in my opinion, to actually swap into a Mount. So those are kind of the thoughts I have in my mind in the future. But that's it for this week's team selection. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I'll see you guys in the live stream.